Thanks for listening to the podcast. We've got a ton of great content that covers the full journey of deploying a branded employee app. Go to staffbase.com, click on resources, and select Employee App Guide. That's it. Best wishes and back to the show. Hello and welcome. Today we're talking with Christine Karlovic, Communications Manager at EDF Renewables North America. Christine, thank you so much for joining.
Oh, thanks for having me.
And I also have one of my favorite colleagues, Heather Rourke, and she is here. She's one of our head folks, our people experience extraordinaires, extravaganza human beings. So she actually got to work with Christine earlier on in the process, and I'm just really glad to have her to be part of this.
Thanks, Jason. Really happy to be here and part of the conversation with Christine and you.
Excellent. So let's just jump right into it. Christine, could you just help us understand what EDF Renewables North America is, and as the communications manager, how many people you and your team communicate with?
Absolutely. So EDF Renewables is a renewable energy company. We develop wind, solar, and storage projects across North America. We have been around for over 34 years and started our first wind project in California in 1984. And as the communications manager, we support, I would say, over 1,100 employees across North America. And that includes internal communications, external communications, and also event planning within our department.
Excellent. I can only imagine that's pretty, just a few things on your lap.
Sure.
I also understand really quick that, if I'm not mistaken, you and Heather share a bit of a environmental connection where you grew up and where she's currently situated. Is that accurate?
That is completely accurate. When I found out that she was from Astoria, New York, I was over the moon. I figured, what a great connection. Now we can talk about all the great Greek food available in the area.
That's exactly what I said to Jason, Christine.
That is wonderful. So we're obviously going to have to do another episode specifically on how to communicate the right Greek food restaurant locations. I think that would be great. Perfect.
Absolutely.
So if we were to jump right in here to the first question about, oh, that sounds great. Excellent. If we hit the rewind button and you don't yet have a branded employee app available to your organization, what was communication like for EDF Renewables North America?
I would say it's been a really long process in just getting the communications off email, off a PDF attachment in email, and into a digital format. And so 3 years ago, when I started with EDF, we were sending out the news to employees, out in an email blast to everyone, just using our regular Outlook system. And it was a PDF attachment, and that had the news in it. And then we started to develop it into more of a digital format, and that was to do it in a MailChimp and send a link around, and a lot of hyperlinks within the MailChimp to kind of try and track and get some data from the MailChimp on the back end of it, because the way we were sending it out, it wasn't through the system of MailChimp. We were creating it in MailChimp and then using that link to send out to employees, but not through the MailChimp system, through our email system. And it was a very tedious process, but it was a quicker way for us to get some data rather than having no data by just sending it out via email in an attachment of a PDF. And so I would say it was a lot of hours, very time consuming to put together the MailChimp and the graphics. And if one of the pieces of the news changed, that changed the whole layout of the MailChimp. Sending it out, not having the data and knowing if anybody was reading it after, putting all of that information together, that would take maybe 8 to 10 hours a week. We were sending it out, I think, weekly or biweekly, at one point biweekly, and then maybe weekly after that. And the process was improving along the way, but it still wasn't super efficient.
So if I can just make sure that I'm grasping all this. So you said 8 to 10 hours a week
trying to put together these messages that would would it be accurate to say for all 1,100 folks it'd be one message to all, and you know, struggling to try to figure out a way to try to find some way to segment that information to the right folks? I'm just trying to understand a little bit more about that.
Yeah. I mean, actually, it was, I believe our employees in Mexico weren't getting any news because we weren't translating the document to Spanish. So I don't believe that we were touching our employees in Mexico. For the employees in Canada, there's a requirement to provide that information in French if they live in Quebec. And so we would translate that PDF to a French document, you know, however, it would go out a week after the news already went out in English. So it was a little bit of a cumbersome process, not super efficient. And so it was multiple things. It was time consuming, not efficient, and it wasn't reaching all of our employees.
Interesting. Now, I will say, just from a personal standpoint, I think MailChimp has one of the most exciting and fun marketing departments I think I've ever seen. Even from the point of their Mail Shrimp campaign, if you've ever heard of that, that's so good.
Yeah.
But I'm curious. So my assumption is, you know, by having to dice that out, a whole section of your organization does not even get the information. And so it must have been a little bit challenging for you to uncover, okay, how are we going to get these messages across to the organization, and how do we make it feel more local, specific, and relevant to the people that you're trying to share it with?
Yeah, absolutely, and engaging, right? Because you know, and I think one of the big things for us was the fact that we not only want to engage all the employees at the organization throughout North America, but I think it's also having them feel like they're a part of the headquarters. I mean, we do have over 1,100 employees, but over 450 of them are at the headquarters in San Diego. And so we have a lot of field technicians that are out working, and they don't feel connected to the organization because they probably are not on their emails all day opening the PDF. They have their phones attached to them. They aren't sitting at a desk all day. You know, it's not a typical office job. So I think that was key for us too. How do we reach employees in a way that's engaging and also is in a way that makes it easy for them to get the information?
Excellent. So I have to ask, how did you start that journey? How did you start to go, okay, I know we need something different. I know we need it to be more engaging. We want people to feel like this message is specifically for them. If the message needs to be in a different language, we don't want it to be, we don't want that message to be sent when the information is potentially out of date. How did you even start the journey to find something like that?
Yeah, I would say our VP of communications that runs our group mentioned it to me, just said, you know, I think it would be great if we could have an employee app. I think that would be really efficient. And this was 2 years ago, maybe even 2.5 years ago. And so at that point, we did start meeting with different companies, but most of those companies wanted to build an app out from scratch, from the ground up. And it just seemed like the expense of doing that was really mind-blowing. And then the time and the effort to put in to get all of it, you know, exactly put together the way we wanted it to look and feel, it just seems like it's impossible. And so we got a couple quotes, we talked to a couple different developers, and then we put it on ice. And then we did another year, and still we were in the same situation with disseminating the news and the analytics and reaching all the employees and the time consumption issue. So then we said, okay, let's revisit it again. And this time we went and talked to 7 different vendors. And that's when we selected Staffbase to be we tested them. We actually demoed 3 of the 7. So we talked to 7 different companies. We demoed 3 different products, apps, and then we selected Staffbase.
Wonderful. So that's great. the next question I have to say or ask you is, now that you have this branded mobile application for your organization, what are you seeing in terms of, I guess the outputs and the outcomes here? Like, looking at how you were describing when you were primarily using mail, a good chunk of your organization wasn't even getting the message. Some of it was outdated. What changed since then?
Oh, it's completely day and night. It's completely day and night. I mean, the time that it takes to post something, it's just like using any other social media platform, right? It takes 2 seconds to make a post and have a link and throw a picture in there. You can do it from your phone. You can do it from your desktop. It's available in all 3 languages, so everybody can see the same news in their respective language, whatever the setting on their phone is. Just the time that it took to put all of that together before, and we would never go back. It's just proved to be a complete day and night experience. And it's great to see the employees actually engaging with the news and being able to vet, this is what employees like to see, or this is what they're not interested in seeing, and seeing how they engage and how we can improve our communication process and how we can make the information that we send out tailored to the audience specifically, which are the employees. It's just like day and night. It's made life so much easier for everybody.
What were some of the surprises in terms of, wow, I can't believe that the organization collectively really enjoys learning about X?
It's the personal stories. We have a channel called Viewpoint, and it's stories of employees that are, out in their personal life, I don't know, climbing going on a climb to, I can't think of the mountain of one of our employees that posted, but a story about their experience hiking through this mountain. And, employees really love that type of stuff. Definitely the HR stuff, like the new hires, that seems to be a big hit for some reason. People like to see who's joining the organization and what their role is going to be, the promotions that take place weekly. Videos, any type of videos that we post. I think they really love the pictures of our projects from our field techs. I mean, those, I don't know if anything really surprised me. I think what did surprise me is how many employees signed up to use the app. I believe that we have, out of 1,100 employees, a bit over 1,100, we have like 989 using it. Or at least signed up to use it, and people are engaging on it every day, and that's really been surprising to see.
That's wonderful. So I think, if memory serves me, we bumped into each other at an event a couple of months ago, and we started talking about next level. Now that you have this branded employee application, and you can start to see, okay, well, what else can I bring to your employee base through mobile, and where's your head thinking in the future?
Yeah, I think at first we were taking baby steps, and Heather can echo our sentiment. I was saying, we just want to start small. We just want to put the news out there. I'm not sure how people are going to adapt to the application, and let's just go really slow and just get the news, and that'll just be the first part of it. Now we're developing all sorts of channels, and we've got the back end piece of it and down to a science. And now we're thinking, how can we roll in all of the other great apps that we have out there that we're utilizing into this one app at some point and make it more scalable, so that employees only have to go to the Wire app in order to access everything. And so I think that next steps are to figure out how we can get everything into one place for all the employees to access it and make it easier for them.
Wonderful. And Heather, just out of curiosity, I really like the way that Christine talked about, I just want to start small. We would just want to get the news out there. Just get people interested and engaged and accessing information that they had through email previously in a much easier way. Do you find that is a good first step for a lot of organizations?
Yeah, it's kind of like running a pilot in a lot of ways, where you're getting your user experience and kind of getting your feet a little wet and seeing what's good, what works, what doesn't work. And then when you kind of get a good grasp or handle on what you want to do and kind of the whole picture of where you want to take the app, that's where you can start running. So that's a good approach.
Excellent. That's great. So now, now that let's see, we talked all about where you were. We talked about how you've now deployed a branded mobile application where you're starting to think about the future and integrating all these different aspects. If you met someone on the street and they're like, maybe they're walking you through the same experience. We sent so many emails. It's okay. I like that I can see how many people open it and click, etc. But there's definitely something missing. The percentages aren't really as high as I'd like them to be. And they're saying, but I've heard that you guys have this app. What would you say to that person to start thinking in the right direction?
In how to get employees engaged?
Yeah.
And get more people using the app? Is that the question? I'm sorry. I want to make sure I have it correct.
Sure. My apologies. It wasn't super clear because I was thinking about how great some of the information you shared was. If you met someone on the street that's really just thinking about going forward with an employee application, what would your advice be to them?
Oh, I mean, I think it's day and night in how you communicate with the employees. I think there's so many different reasons to get an employee app. I think one is emergency situations where you can push a notification out and let employees know, if the office needs to be closed or if there's flooding or if there's a hurricane or, things like that. We wouldn't be able to do that another way. I mean, email might not be the best way to do it because our email systems could be down. And if our email systems are down, we have a push notification that we can send out through the app. It's completely not connected to our internal systems or IT systems. And so I think that's one key aspect that's, just a really great feature to consider for safety and emergency tool. And then, I just think that trying to reach all the employees in a way that is digital today, now. I mean, this younger generation, that's who we need to think about when we're bringing new tools on, because the younger generation, they're on their phone, they're digital, they're mobile, they're moving. They are not going to be sitting at their desk doing anything except for working on the PowerPoint presentation on their desktop. Everything else, and maybe they'll be doing that from their phone. I'm still not there yet, but I know a lot of people are. But there's this generation of employees that we're about to hire that are digital and mobile, and this appeals to them. And the only way they're going to pay attention to the news is if it's probably on this little phone in front of them in their hands. And so I think that is a key consideration when considering to take an app and make it a part of the culture of the business.
That's wonderful. And I think you're going to speak to a lot of folks that are in that position, thinking about, how am I going to reach the people that we're hiring? How do I make this experience? If I'm going to start at this new organization, it's really one of the most compelling things we've uncovered is that when you say, oh, we have this app where you can access all this information and you get it on day one. And that really excites people, that they feel connected to the organization. And even if you're spread across multiple countries and different locations, if you're talking to your field workers, they feel that connection. I talk a lot about that vision of how when organizations first start out, they can solve problems around a pizza box. And so the pizza box sort of has become that mobile device in terms of getting people to feel connected.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, it's so nice to be able to post something out there in 3 different languages and everybody feels connected and knows what's going on at the headquarters, at the different locations, at the different outside in the field. We have folks posting pictures and sending us pictures to post of, a beautiful sunset over the turbine. I mean, it's amazing. And it's great to see people communicating with each other. Hey, I really love that post. I really like that story that you told, that this is great news. This is great information. So I think I think any organization that's not going in the direction of an app, could easily be left behind. It's just, it's now, it's today, it's a digital world. We all have to kind of stay abreast of all of that, especially being in communications. It's key.
That's wonderful. And I hope that you're going to be sharing with the organization some wonderful photos as you are traveling yourself right now, I believe.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I definitely will. I'll do my write-up for The Wire as soon as I return.
That sounds great. So I know you have to get back to your wonderful family. So I have one more question. It's my favorite question. And that is there anything fun that you're working on today that you want to talk about?
Yes. You know what? Actually, we are running a new program. I think it's called 60 Seconds of Fast Talk. And so we have one of our employees in our different offices asking a series of questions to employees, and those will be published every week on The Wire. And I think that's going to be so fun and interesting, and I think it's going to be like just a hit, and it's fun stuff. It's not like, it's going to be like vanilla or chocolate ice cream, or, Yankees or Red Sox.
You might start some fights, Christine.
Yeah. That's the goal, just to get the energy and the blood flowing.
Oh, I love that. In fact, I can't wait to hear how it goes. We'll have to do a follow-up just to see how that went. That's such an interesting use case.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I'll send you guys the results after the first couple of them to let you know how it goes.
Please do. Christine, thank you so much for your time. I know it is precious because you're with your family. I just wanted to say thank you so much. This has been great. I learned so much from you in this nice chunk of time. So I hope you have a wonderful rest of your time with your family. And thank you again.
Oh, thanks for having me. Take care, guys.
Thanks,
thank
Christine.
you. You
Talk
too.
to you later.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to the podcast. We've got a ton of great content that covers the full journey of deploying a branded employee app. Go to staffbase.com, click on resources, and select Employee App Guide. That's it. Best